Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Elthy putting together a draft for FGH slash card camel. As you can see, we're going to be doing an M12 Swiss draft, and hopefully we can provide you guys with a little bit of entertaining commentary or what have you. I'm sorry that FGH won't actually be joining us right now, as I'm sure a bunch of you have heard. I actually recently got 2 kittens, and he's been spending a lot of time taking care of them and helping me out with everything, which is really badass of him. Also pretty badass, opening Soren Markov. We're obviously going to take that. Okay, otherwise there's a lot of great green in this pack, which means it's time for someone from Channel Fireball to talk about how bad this pack is. Alright. Get past Sengir Vampire, that seems okay. The Stormblood Berserker is probably a little bit better, but it wouldn't surprise me if a black card came back around from this pack even after we take the Sengir. So I think we're just going to stick with our colors, or stick with our first pick color here. I'm not actually sure what sort of power level Chandra's Outrage sits at. Like, I mean, obviously it's great, it's removal and stuff, but I'm not sure whether Gravedigger is better or worse than it here. I think I'm going to take the Gravedigger, just because this format benefits so much from dorky creatures that have extra abilities. We actually drafted a deck. Down, kitten, down. We actually drafted a deck a couple nights ago that had just nothing but comes into play effects off of creatures, and it was pretty good. Alright, so here's a 4th pick Minotaurs, and do we want to take that over the Aether Adept? We definitely have been passing some very good red through, which means that we may have some trouble grabbing any in pack 2, whereas blue might be a little bit more open, but the Minotaurs is much more powerful than the Aether Adept, so I'm not actually sure what direction we want to take this. Yeah, I think I'm just going to keep pushing on power level and grab the Minotaurs here, and we'll see what happens. Excuse me. So for anyone who's been living under a rock and hasn't heard anything from FGH lately, you should consider going to eBay and checking out his listings. He's got an eBay store under the name Card Camel, and he's actually been liquidating a really epic amount of stock at quite good prices. Even the shipping is completely reasonable, which if you shop on eBay at all, you know is kind of a rare thing. Yes, that was an incredibly shameless plug, in case you were somehow incapable of discerning that, gentle listener. But FGH has spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks sort of cruising around town and doing a lot of trading and buying up a lot of stock from card stores around here that maybe don't necessarily realize the value of the cards they have. And so he's just making them available to you, again, at pretty reasonable prices. So this pack does not excite me. Does not excite me at all. Yeah, I don't even feel like this could be the sort of deck that we really care about Lavax. And I've never actually been happy playing Lightning Elemental, so I don't know that we have anything on color to do here. I think the choice is between Siege Mastodon and Ice Cage in terms of really unexciting commons that we may end up wanting to use, and I think I'll grab the Ice Cage because while I haven't been paying close attention to it, I feel like blue has been passing through a little bit more freely than white. Waiting for a pack. Alright, so here are the choices between Drifting Shade and probably Skywinder Drake. I'm not sure that Visions of Beyond is actually worth a ticket and a half, and one of the minor downsides to drafting for Card Camel is that occasionally you have to take a rare draft in order to keep your EV where it needs to be, especially if you can't reliably win rounds like I sort of can't. So probably the correct choice here is to take the Drifting Shade and keep an eye towards possibly being mono black, but I'm just going to take the ticket and a half. That might actually be played. Excuse me. Alright, so only 2 really playable cards here, but Lurking Crocodile is much stronger than Frost Breath, so we'll take that. So things have taken a bit of a downturn in terms of quality, but I think we'll get a lot of information out of what kinds of cards come around from the first couple of packs. Here Fleetwing is obviously badass, so we'll take that. And it looks like probably, hopefully, we end up black-blue. It's obviously a super strong color combination, and we already have a few powerful cards to reward us for being there. Alright, going to happily take a Manolith here, since it obviously lets us splash any sort of craziness, and we could end up having kind of a high top end if we end up as a control deck, so it's not a bad bet hedger to take here. I hope you folks don't mind me occasionally using the pause button. I find it really dissonant when I'm watching videos, but there's just no good way to cover up all of that awkward silence, and unfortunately I'm not the capable banterer of the two of us. So like we said, we got a black card back from that pack, so that's pretty exciting. Less exciting here. Alright, so this sort of thing probably shouldn't happen. Going to take the Goblin Grenade, just because it can actually be pretty ridiculous, and I think it might actually be worth a quarter of a ticket or so. Goblin Grenade, if you have 5 or 6 goblins, is obviously pretty great, especially if you have those goblins that are really important in the early game, or really exciting in the early game, but just kind of sit there doing nothing later. And obviously if you can do something crazy like sacrifice the Pinger Goblin, you're just laughing. Hey look, it's a rare. Hey look, it's a land. And again. So that first pack was okay, but not very even. The power level obviously dropped off super quickly, and while we got a few late gifts in a few different colors. Oof. Alright, so we are saved the difficulty of trying to explain why we're pushing into the last of the 5 colors, because in addition to some crazy white cards, we also opened Mind Control. So that should pretty much solidify us in blue as our second color. And so, get rid of Crocodile. Probably get rid of Ice Cage, because you don't really want to play it a lot of the time. And alas, poor Minotaurs. So back to the topic of kittens, because notionally this is supposed to be a draft about and for the kittens. I actually wasn't intending to get cats. I'm working on wrapping up my master's degree right now, so in a couple of months I'm going to be moving away, and then moving again hopefully a few months after that in order to start pursuing a PhD. And I don't own a car, I don't have a driver's license, so having other creatures that like you can't take on a bus or a train is pretty much the worst possible thing. Nice. Okay, so gonna get past a Cemetery Reaper. Just high five myself over here. And anyway, so kittens, trains, it doesn't work. But then I got a message from a friend a couple of days ago saying that she and someone she knew had found these feral kittens, just sort of out and about, and they were really lovely, and of course she sent pictures, and I was like, well, that's great, but I can't actually adopt them. It's just not something I'm capable of. And this person responded by sending me a message saying that, if the kittens didn't find a home, they were actually going to be taken somewhere and abandoned. And, I mean, that's pretty bullshit. Like, I can't actually imagine what kind of person would be able to do that. I'm going to take the Tainted Soul here, I think. The Devouring Swarm is actually probably stronger, but the Tormented Soul can be a little bit more difficult to get a hold of, because if someone else is doing the Bloodthirst thing. And again, there's another Berserker, which is kind of upsetting, because the red deck that we aren't getting into is going to be pretty solid, I think. Anyway, so abandoning kittens, douchebag move, and my heart is just a bit bigger than my brain, so now I have 2 kittens. I also have another Gravedigger. Sweet. Just as soon as, probably after I'm done building the deck, but before we actually submit it, I'll pop up some pictures of the kittens because they are amazingly cute. Of course, right? I mean, that's the point of kittens. And hopefully everyone can celebrate in their bad attitude. Oh, okay, so we're going to have 2 Cemetery Reapers. They pump each other. That's how lords work. That's how good lords work, FGH murmurs. Okay, yeah. And he helpfully points out that Lord of the Unreal doesn't quite work like that. But it doesn't matter because Cemetery Reaper does work like that. So we probably want to start prioritizing removal over slightly better creature cards just because we've already got a pretty solid creature suite going on here. And this deck will be completely fine playing sort of awkward donks like Blood Rage Vampire. Call to the Grave, eh? We definitely already have 4 zombies. Excuse me. Already have 4 zombies. And yeah. And Cemetery Reaper also definitely makes zombies. Child of the Night is definitely stronger than it, I think, but if there was going to be a deck where Call of the Grave would be good, this is it. So I think we're going to try and build towards it. Excuse me. So things are looking like we may end up with just a bit of a blue splash, just because of sort of where our black mana symbols are. Cemetery Reaper is obviously exciting to get down, not the earliest, but fairly early. So here's an example of the sort of pick I was talking about. The Tormented Soul is probably a little bit better in what we're trying to do, but Deathmark is pretty ridiculous and is live against many decks. Yeah. Alright. Here, I think the choice is between Devouring Swarm and the Cutthroat. Cutthroat is the sort of man who just doesn't get enough respect for what he does in this format. But again, Devouring Swarm is excellent for us because we aren't too concerned about the double black mana cost. Bam. But yes, Cutthroat. I mean, I get it, 13th and 14th pick a lot of the time, and that's just really unnecessary for a great blocker. Okay, so this is our original pack that was full of great white, and a lot of pretty good white has come back. But that doesn't really concern us. I think we're just going to take another quarter of a ticket here with the Goblin Grenade. And hope that the red Bloodthirst deck just sort of randomly takes a mana screw loss and we don't run into it. Alright, so like we suspected, the Dusk Hunter Bats came back. Nice. Wow, okay, this is pretty great. I'm not actually sure which... Well, I know Devouring Swarm is probably stronger, but I think the Blood Rage Vampire is the better card here. Actually, no. I'm not sure what I think. I'm going to take the Vampire, but I think it may just be the wrong choice. It's a stronger card if you can get it bloodthirsted, but it's still up in the air whether we're going to be able to manage that or not in this particular draft. Manage that consistently, obviously. But we only need to pick up 5 or 6 cards in this pack, which is pretty great. It's not one of those things where you really need to rely on a lot of luck for the deck to come together. We're mostly there, so we can afford to pick and choose our places. It's pretty good. We're a little light on creatures. Obviously, we just have an infinite loop of, hey, nice Jace Memory Adept. Okay, so this is pretty great.
We're blue too.
Yep, we are blue. Alright, so we're just running the LSV special, I guess. If you didn't watch that Sealed, where he busted open 2 Planeswalkers, I would strongly encourage you to do. You don't actually learn anything, but it's pretty entertaining. Bam! Planeswalkers for everybody. Excuse me. Alright, so there's actually a lot of very good cards here for us. And this is definitely the sort of pick that I have a tendency to do incorrectly. The Bell Tower Sphinx is probably the strongest card in the pack. However, I think we may want to take a black card here because of what our deck is sort of aimed towards doing. I really feel like we're an aggro deck that just has a couple of late game control cards. Again, this is a sense that's created by things like the Cemetery Reaper, which just give us a lot of aggressive inevitability because we need to have creatures actually dying for it to be doing what it wants to do. Yeah, so I'm going to be a donkey and take the Child of Night. Okay, so this is a third pick Flame Blast Dragon. This is actually the third draft in a row that this has happened to me. The first draft I hadn't been able to play it. The second draft I was already in red. And here, well, no, we can't actually hope to splash it. But I think we're going to take it so that we don't have to worry about it in the rounds because we do not have ways to deal with it. Excuse me. Alright, so that's so many timely reinforcements. They're coming out of the walls. Alright, so here the Blood Rage Vampire is just another very good man, and I think we're just going to take it. Bam. Here, Looter is a really great gift to get past because it does exactly what we want. It helps us find all of our powerful cards. And it's not competing against another great card like the Divinations that we keep not taking. Excuse me. Alright, so Foil Scramble versus Side. This pack has a Phantasmal Bear, which is pretty good for our Bloodthirst ambitions. Alright, welcome back. Not a lot of exciting stuff going on here. We're probably not going to play the Dark Favor, and the Circle of Flame isn't that bad for us, like as a sideboard card that we're up against. So I think the choice is between these two red cards, and I think Hellhound is the safer hate draft in general. Alright, so here we're choosing between, well actually here we're just taking the Drifting Shade because we're pretty mono black, I think. Not exactly. We're going to be heavy black, and our 3 slot is already pretty beefy. Are we going to play either of those cards? Definitely not playing the Ponder. No, we're not. Alright, so it's a question of what we want to hate draft, and I think we're going to take the Crimson Mage. Crimson Mage is definitely like in the lower half of quality in terms of the mages, but it's still pretty great, and I think the fact that it's actually an aggressive attacking creature in a color that just sometimes wants that 2-1 for 2 gives it a lot of sort of hidden value, or value that people don't appreciate. Excuse me. Here the Giant is probably the correct pick, but we'll just take a little bit of bonus value here. And the Bears could actually cause us a lot of trouble because they just trade with our Vampires and stuff, so we'll get that out of the way. Sideboard card. Right. So this looks like it might be the deck. Pretty excited by that. We have basically no removal, which is like super unfortunate, but it may not matter because we could just bounce our creatures off their creatures forever. Thanks to the several Cemetery Reapers we've been past. Alright, so I'll get the deck construction thing underway and then give you guys a little bit of kitten-based action. Alright folks, so here's the deck. We're running 17 lands plus the Manolith. It feels a little awkward to me, only because I feel a little concerned about the fact that we're like half aggro, half control. And contrary to popular belief, that isn't actually like a great definition of mid-range. So we have this awkward, not mid-range, turn 4 sort of power spell deck. But anyway, here we are. Hopefully things work out. The mana might give us a little bit of trouble through the rounds, but hopefully not. Suggest. We definitely don't want that many swamps. 11 is the correct number in order to have double mana consistently on turn 2. So it's a little bit overkill here maybe, but we can count on that manalith also to provide us with the double blue that we need later on. So I think this is okay. We may occasionally get a little bit boned with Phantasmal Bear stuck in hand when we really want to be dumping it out on turn 1, but that's the price you pay to have double Sedentary Reaper Soren Markov in your deck. Alright, so we're done with that, and I'm feeling okay, so we'll hit submit here, and minimize this, pull this up, give you guys a sordid trip through the bowels of my computer. So this is Dash. He's the male of the two. And as you can see, he's adorable. Very tiny. The picture doesn't actually capture the scale of them very well. They're probably not more than 8 or 9 inches long at this stage. It's actually just the cutest thing ever.
They're smaller than my shoe.
They're smaller than FGH's shoe. And FGH wears size 12, I think. Hint, hint, ladies.
13.
Here's 13, he corrects me. The extra distance is important. Probably he also wears an extra wide. Don't let anyone tell you any different. And so here's the first of like 7 pictures of a kitten spooning. They spend a lot of time doing that. The only thing they really do more often than that is wrestle, which is also adorable, obviously. And here's Dash again exploring. Also a picture of a delicious sandwich, but mostly Dash. And here they are again. The female, with the one without white paws, is named Rainbow, obviously, because when you have 2 cats, you really have to go, when you get 2 cats at the same time, you have to go for some sort of theme with the naming, and obviously Rainbow Dash is just about 20% better than any other possible naming convention you could opt for. So kittens in my kitchen. And that's, again, Rainbow. They have already managed to lose this toy pictured down here. Which is unfortunate because it is expensive to buy toys for cats. Like, you'd be like $4 or $5, okay, you know, that's like a small toss-off or whatever. But when you lose like a toy a week, it kind of adds up. Also, again, because I wasn't expecting to get kittens at all, my entire apartment is basically set up to be a giant hazard / unkitten-friendly space. So there's just like all these places that they keep getting stuck or getting lost. And that's kind of a less clear picture of them curled up on, I think, my lap, actually. And then a couple of very well taken smaller photos. This one in particular is excellent. Yeah, so thank you for listening to me ramble. Massive hearts to everyone. Be sure to check out Card Camel on eBay, and maybe even think about joining me for round 1.